All right. Good, actually, good afternoon, folks. Good bit of good afternoon for many of us. Welcome again to Floyd Bennett Memorial Airport, just south. There we go, just south of Glens Falls, and it is a magnificently bright, sunny VFR day. Winds are about 15 knots coming in from the south. We are again in our Cessna 208B, lovingly referred to by the company as the SUV of airplanes. And we'll be coming down this taxiway here to runway 19. Yes, the very runway we landed on just a few days ago. And we'll take off from there. Okay. Just taking a look at chat. I have, and we'll see whether this works out. To a large extent, I have gone through all of the pre-flight stuff, so we can just move right into taxiing to the runway and taking off. There will be, or there may be, some of you that want to see, what a checkout goes like. And to be absolutely honest, I don't go through any formal check procedures. Not that quite realistic at this point. To some degree, because I don't know them, but I get going enough to get the engine going, as we saw a couple of times before. And get everything going in terms of what has to be going. And I've actually found that pretty intense, just the way it is. All right, we have our altitude that's set at 4,500. Again, the FAA charts say that the Adirondacks, we're going to be going across, stop at 4,300, and so we'll see what happens from there. At this point in time, and this could very well change because of the time of day, we don't have any air traffic control per se, but we'll see exactly what happens with Boston Center, as we begin to go across New York State. Yes, Boston Center controls much of northern New York State. New York Center controls the southern area of the state. And believe it or not, the western area of New York State is controlled by, wait for it, Cincinnati. We will actually be, at this point in time in our flight, leaving for the first time Boston Center airspace and going into Cincinnati airspace when we land at Ithaca. All right. Let's start out. Floyd Bennett traffic, November 143 Charlie Alpha, taxiing to runway 19. And with that taxi, we have to take off our parking brake. All right, let's see if we can do this without hitting this guy here. Come on. There we go. All right, our wing takes him out, and we're off. Gonna go in a 270-degree turn. Come on, there we go. I agree. Cozy, it's his fault for standing so close. Unfortunately, the FAA and various state laws would not agree with us. In fact, one of the ways of doing this, the quote unquote proper way of doing this, is before the propeller is actually engaged, you yell "clear" out the window to make sure that everyone knows that you're about to turn the propeller on. Really is another nice day. I didn't exactly order that, but I'm glad it turned out that way. Now, interestingly enough, I'm looking at the FAA chart. Good afternoon, Cara. Wonderful, wonderful to have you here. I'm going to say I was looking at the FAA chart, and I don't know what's going on, but there's a huge TFA circle. TFA is temporary, TFR is temporary flight restriction, centered around Syracuse in 1 day and 19 hours, I think. And it's listed as VIP. So, those of us in the central New York area, who's dropping in on you tomorrow? All right, hang on a second here. Floyd Bennett, traffic, November 143 Charlie Alpha, taking off runway 19. And if you're good, you can just go right onto the runway and zoom off, like so. As long as you have clearance, they let you do anything. Our flaps are as they should be, our ailerons are as they should be, and oh, that was glass smooth. That was glass smooth. Let's just take a look at this. All right. Let's move. All right, we're headed south at this point, and now we're going to want to change things to the west. That was very, very nicely smooth, though. All right, now we're going to bring our flaps up, and that will cause us to dip down slightly. Let's reorientate that. Make sure we keep ourselves at a positive rate of flying. With that, something we probably should have done beforehand, let's set our heading reticule to the west. That's that blue reticule that we have. There we go. Let's see how that works. And with that, we'll set out the autopilot, and things will start to take over. Let's there we go. There we go. Let's bring this over and go up around 600 feet a minute and select heading And with that, we'll start to move in the direction and the altitude that we should. Ah. There we go. All right. Now again, we are just north of Glens Falls right now. At least that's where the airport is. And we're going to be going, in fact, no, that's not Glens Falls. We're going to be going west-northwest, right into the Adirondacks today. There we are. So let's take a look at where we want to go direction-wise. And it's interesting. You would know that is west. That's pretty good. But we want to go in this direction, interestingly enough. So let's move our heading. There we go. There we go, right in the middle there. All right. We're at 3,500 at this point, and there's the beginning of our Adirondack Mountains. Let's take a look at where we are. All right, there's Lake George right here. You can actually see that. There we go. There's Lake George right here. That's the lake we slalomed across when we landed. There we go. Gotta get used to that. Now, I don't know, but I expect that in this particular time frame, we'll actually see ourselves going into the evening pretty well. All right, our altitude is at 4,500, which is what it should be. We're at 130 knots. Let's move. Our flaps are where they should be, i.e. all the way in. Let's move our engine just to the edge here. Actually, we'll bring that down just a bit and use this here to move our propeller to, let's say, 75%. There we go. Now, what I did there was literally swiveled the propeller so that it's biting the air a little bit more aggressively as it turns. And what that should do is bring our airspeed up just a bit from the 130 to 145, and we'll actually see that go up just a bit more as the evening progresses. Well, yeah, all you have to do is fly, Cozy. It's and it's not, well, it's not simple. It's easy, but it's not simple. That makes any sense whatsoever. Hey, you know it better than anybody here. I'm flying, and I'm flying reasonably well in what we call GA, general aviation aircraft. But I tried to learn and get into air traffic controlling, and I react to it very much how I react to virtual combat. There are so many things that can take place per unit time in air traffic control that I froze. Now, I can handle and have handled a dozen stations, wanting to move a dozen pieces of traffic over a half-hour period in amateur radio, and I've been doing that for 35 years. So it's not something that you couldn't learn, but it's different. It's different. What I decided, I backed off from it, and what I decided was to concentrate on the flying, concentrate on the instrument flight ratings. And once that was done, I'd take a look at air traffic control again, because air traffic control, by its very nature, is basically doing instrument flying for or in conjunction with the pilot. We are doing visual flight rules right now. The impetus is on us to make sure that we don't fly into the ground or any other plane. Now, interestingly enough, thinking you're in a car. If a car was headed right towards you, you would. I'd forgotten that, Kara. I had completely forgotten your dad was a pilot. um, so if you have a car headed directly towards you on the highway, you don't have a lot of time to react if that's happening. You have less time to react in a plane. And of course, there have been significant crashes in the air. Huh. So your dad was refueling. my my grandfather was driving trucks in Fort Drum for for World War II. My uncle was in the Air Force. I think you know this, Cara. My uncle was in the Air Force, and he ended up being the head of the officers club at the U.S. Air Force Academy, and he he retired. About the time he retired, the U.S. Air Force Academy became a client of Seaboard, where I worked in Ithaca. Uh, and so I became their technical support. And so I was known as Doc Kinney, Captain Kinney's nephew. And they wanted me at the U.S. Air Force Academy whenever we did upgrades. I actually went at one point in time. They really didn't need it, but they wanted it, and so I went one time. It was actually rather funny. Usually at Seaboard, what we would do would be to talk someone through the upgrade, and I told them that's what I can do. There's no need for me to come up there. It's going to be expensive for me to come up there. Then they found out how expensive, especially when they wanted me. But they still got me, and it was just after Christmas. So I went home, and Uncle Brian was still alive at that point, and I said, "Uncle Brian, you've got to go back to the Air Force Academy." And he said, "Why?" I said, "Your people can't put a CD-ROM in the drive anymore and press enter." And he looked at me and thought about that for about 15 seconds and said, "No, I don't have to go back to the Air Force Academy. That's why I had my brother have you." It's one of the best comebacks I've ever heard in my life. I did go. I was done with the entire Air Force Academy, all the computers, all the individual computers, by 9:30. 9:30 a.m. And we looked at each other. And she said, "Well, what else can we do?" I said, "Give me a tour." The U.S. Air Force Academy, of course, has the U.S. Air Force Academy Chapel. I went through every square millimeter of that chapel. Here we go. This is what ski slopes look like from the air. This is what also power line areas look like from the air. All right, folks. This is VFR flying. So let's start having a little bit of fun. Taking the autopilot off. Let's get into these mountains just a bit. Now this has to be a mining area. Congratulations, guys. We just crashed. Oh, I didn't think that was actually going to happen. What happened? Yeah, there we go. What happened? And exactly what do we want to do at this point? I pushed the engine far more than it should have been. It should have been pushed. As we were flying very, very nicely, where we were going, Um, as we were flying very, very nicely the way we were going nice and level and etc. And then I decided to do a dive. This is the second time this has happened to me. We had everything right at the top of where it should be, and putting us in a dive, I stressed the engine out too much, and that's what caused us to crash. Now at this point, I wonder if that's going to get me any more hits in this particular in this particular video.